Welcome back to Animal Notebook. So I want you to imagine, just for a second, sitting down to a meal where your food is actively trying to bite you, sting you, and just totally swarm you. Sounds awful, right? Well, now imagine you have to eat 30,000 of those aggressive little morsels every single day just to survive. We're kicking off this explainer by looking at exactly how one incredible mammal manages to pull off this biological miracle, day in and day out. And to make that 30,000 a day quota even more unbelievable, think about this. What mammal survives 60 million years without a single tooth in its head? I mean, that sounds like a massive evolutionary disadvantage, doesn't it? But the creature we're diving into today hasn't just survived against the odds. It's practically conquered its environment, remaining virtually unchanged since right around the time the dinosaurs went extinct. So today, we're bringing you Anteaters against the odds. We're going to explore the downright bizarre, highly specialized, and honestly triumphant survival story of the anteater. We'll break down the wild biology that makes their existence even possible and look at the real-world challenges they face today. It's an absolute masterclass in evolutionary efficiency. Section 1. Meet the living fossils. 60 million years of adaptation. Okay, let's jump right in and look at their biological toolkit because it is wonderfully weird. First up, anteaters are edentate, which is just a fancy science term meaning they completely lack teeth. Chewing 30,000 tiny bugs would just waste way too much energy. And speaking of energy, they actually run at a super low body temperature of about 91 degrees Fahrenheit to match their low-energy diet. They also have this super quirky knuckle-walking gait. Oh, and how do they digest food without teeth? Well, they actually swallow sand and small pebbles on purpose. These sit in a highly acidic, muscular, gizzard-like stomach that literally grinds up the tough insect exoskeletons for them. Now think about those massive front-digging claws on a giant anteater. The claw on their second digit can reach up to 4 inches long. To put that in perspective, we are talking grizzly bear proportions here. These tools are strictly meant to rip open rock-hard termite mounds like they're made of wet paper. If an anteater walked flat-footed, they'd instantly dull these absolutely vital tools. So they actually evolved to walk entirely on their knuckles to keep those excavation hooks razor sharp.
Section 2. Nature's ultimate insect hunters. The mechanics of eating.
Remember all those biting, stinging ants we talked about? Yeah, an anteater doesn't have time to hang around and get swarmed. They've got to get in and get out. Fast. And they do this by flicking their tongue an unbelievable 150 to 160 times per minute. That means their tongue is darting in and out of those tiny little tunnels more than twice a second, just vacuuming up prey before the colony's soldiers even know they're under attack. To reach deep into the absolute bottom of those nests, a giant anteater's tongue is super thin and can extend up to 2 feet long. Think about that. 2 feet. That's longer than its entire head and neck combined. And here's a wild fact. The tongue isn't attached in the throat like ours. It anchors all the way back into their chest cavity. As it whips around at lightning speed, massive salivary glands coat it in a sticky saliva that acts like superglue, trapping the insects and neutralizing their ability to bite on the way down to that sand-filled stomach.
Section 3. The cast of characters. 4 distinct species.
What's really cool is how this family, known as the worm-tongue suborder, has perfectly divided up the real estate in Central and South America so they aren't competing with each other for food. The massive giant anteater is terrestrial, sticking strictly to the ground. Then, if you look up into the lower branches, you'll find the tamanduas, which are semi-arboreal. And finally, hiding way up in the high rainforest canopy is the tiny, strictly arboreal silky anteater. The size difference between these cousins is just mind-blowing. The giant anteater roaming the savanna can weigh around 88 pounds, but its canopy-dwelling relative, the nocturnal silky anteater, weighs in at barely 0.7 pounds. That means the giant anteater is over 100 times heavier than the silky. Yet despite that massive gap, both rely on the exact same weird, toothless insect hunting blueprint. One thing they do have in common across all sizes is that they're super solitary. They don't hang out in herds. But there is one really beautiful exception: mothers and their pups. Because of those huge, dangerous claws, mom can't exactly cuddle or carry her baby in her arms, so instead, the baby just climbs right onto her back. She'll carry her pup around like a little backpack for up to a whole year, keeping it safe while it watches and learns how to hunt for itself. Section 4. Facing the modern odds. Predators and conservation. So what happens when a relatively slow-moving anteater meets a jaguar? Well, they've got an amazing defense mechanism. When threatened, they rear all the way up on their hind legs and use their big, bushy tail like a third leg, making a perfectly balanced tripod stance. From up there, they take wild swipes with those grizzly-sized claws. It's actually so effective that they've been well documented fighting off fully grown jaguars and pumas.
But while they can definitely hold their own in the wild, human threats are a lot harder to swipe away. Deforestation and agricultural fires are rapidly shrinking their natural homes. Then you have road mortality on major highways, plus hunting and the illegal pet trade really hurting Tamandua populations. Right now, the IUCN lists the giant anteater as vulnerable, and the tiny silky anteater, it's actually listed as data deficient, which just means they are so elusive up in the canopy that scientists desperately need more research to figure out how to protect them.
And that brings us to Section 5, Anteater FAQs. We've gathered 4 of the top questions from the Animal Notebook community to close things out.
Let's start with FAQ number 1, which is something a lot of you wonder about. If they are gobbling up 30,000 stinging bugs a day, do anteaters get bitten while eating?
The answer is yes, they do. But they minimize the damage with some brilliant adaptations. For starters, their fur is super coarse and thick, acting like biological armor. Also, their nostrils actually have flaps that clamp completely shut, stopping angry ants from swarming up into their noses. Plus, they use a total hit-and-run tactic. They'll only feed at one mount for maybe 30 to 60 seconds tops, and then bolt before the colony can mount a proper counterattack. All right, moving to FAQ 2. Because of the long snout or the big claws, people always ask, are anteaters related to aardvarks or bears? Nope, they're definitely not bears, and despite the similar lifestyle, they aren't aardvarks either. They actually belong to an ancient group of American mammals called Xenarthra. Believe it or not, their closest living relatives are actually sloths and armadillos. It's kind of a bizarre family tree when you think about it, right? FAQ 3 is all about the senses. With a head shaped like a tube, can anteaters see well? Not really, no. They have tiny eyes and pretty terrible eyesight. But here's the thing, they don't need it. Inside that huge snout is an incredibly advanced olfactory system. Their sense of smell is roughly 40 times more powerful than ours. They can literally pinpoint a tiny underground termite nest just by catching a whiff of it on the breeze. And finally, our 4th FAQ, which we touched on briefly but is just so fascinating. Why exactly do they walk so strangely? It all comes down to preserving their most important tools. To protect those massive 4-inch claws from getting worn down on the dirt, they curl their front paws inward and walk entirely on their knuckles. It's an evolutionary trade-off, sacrificing a normal walk to ensure they can still tear open concrete-hard termite mounds. It's just one more incredible quirk that has kept them thriving for eons, which really leaves us with one big question. With 60 million years of survival behind them, quietly outlasting thousands of other species, what other wild secrets might the anteaters still be hiding? Thanks for hanging out with us on Animal Notebook, and as always, keep exploring.